The sun felt like fire on Zariyah's skin. 9 years old, barefoot, blisters on her heels. She walked the dusty streets of Lumina Heights with a bag of oranges that weighed more than hope itself. Her small fingers gripped the plastic handles until they turned white. Every step hurt, every breath burned, but she couldn't stop, not when Mama was home, lying in that bed, coughing blood into torn sheets. "Oranges! Fresh oranges!" Her voice cracked. Dry throat. No water since morning. A woman in a blue dress walked past. Didn't even look. Zariyah tried again. "Please, ma'am. Just one." The door slammed. Another house. Another rejection. Her stomach twisted with hunger she'd learned to ignore. The pain didn't matter. Mama's medicine cost $12. She had $3 from selling 4 oranges since sunrise. She needed a miracle. The next street looked different, cleaner, bigger houses with gates that gleamed in the afternoon light. Rich people lived here. Rich people who might... No, rich people never helped. But Mama's face flashed in her mind. Those sunken eyes, that weak smile she forced every morning, pretending everything was fine when nothing was fine. Zariyah's feet moved before her fear could stop them. She knocked on the first gate. No answer. Second gate. A man yelled at her to leave. Third gate. A dog barked so loud she ran. Fourth gate. She stopped breathing. This wasn't a gate. This was a fortress. Gold and iron twisted together, rising higher than any building she'd ever seen. Behind it sat a mansion that looked like it belonged in fairy tales, not in the real world where little girls sold oranges to buy medicine. Her hand shook as she reached for the bell. "Don't do it. They'll laugh at you. They'll call you dirty. They'll..." She pressed it anyway. The sound echoed. Once, twice. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, coming closer. The gate cracked open and a man appeared. Tall, uniform pressed sharp, eyes hard as stone. "What are you doing here, child?" Zariyah's voice barely escaped. I'm selling oranges. My mama's sick. She needs medicine and we don't need oranges. Go home." Her heart dropped into her stomach. "Please, sir, just one. I'll give you the biggest." I said leave. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She wouldn't cry. Not here. Not in front of him. She turned to go. Then a voice cut through the air. "Wait." Deep, commanding, different. Zariyah spun around. A man stood at the top of the mansion steps. Tall, expensive suit. Eyes that looked like they'd seen ghosts. He stared at her like he was seeing one right now. "Let her in," he said. The guard's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Sir, she's just a..." I said, "Let her in." The gate swung open, and Zariyah's life changed forever. Zariyah stood frozen at the entrance. The gate felt like the doorway to another world, one she didn't belong in. Her torn dress hung loose on her thin frame. Dust covered her legs. The oranges in her bag suddenly felt stupid, worthless. What could she possibly offer people who lived behind gates made of gold? "Come," the man said from the steps. His voice wasn't mean, but it wasn't kind either. It was empty, like he'd forgotten how to feel anything. Zariyah took one step forward, then another. The guard watched her like she might steal something. She wanted to tell him she'd never stolen anything in her life. Mama taught her better than that, but her voice had disappeared. The driveway stretched forever, smooth stone under her feet instead of cracked concrete. Everything here was perfect, clean, untouched by the world she knew. She felt smaller with every step. The man waited at the top of the stairs. Up close, she could see the lines around his eyes, sadness carved into his face like someone had taken a knife to marble. He was old, maybe 40, but he looked ancient. "What's your name?" he asked. "Zariyah." It came out as a whisper. "And your mother?" "Amira, she's sick, real sick. I'm trying to get medicine, but nobody wants oranges, and I don't know what else to do, and..." She stopped. She was rambling. Mama said never ramble to strangers. The man's jaw tightened. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Pain? She couldn't tell. How long has she been sick? 3 weeks, maybe 4. The coughing started small, but now there's blood and she can't get out of bed, and I'm scared she's... Her voice cracked. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Come inside, he said softly. Zariyah hesitated. Mama also said never go inside a stranger's house, but Mama needed medicine, and this man had money. She could see it in his watch, his shoes, the way he stood like the whole world bent around him. She nodded. He turned and walked through the massive front doors. Zariyah followed. The moment she crossed the threshold, her breath caught in her throat. Chandeliers hung from ceilings so high they seemed to touch the sky. Marble floors reflected light like mirrors. A staircase curved upward, wider than her entire apartment. Gold, everywhere, on the frames, on the railings, on the handles of doors that led to rooms she couldn't imagine. This wasn't a house. This was a palace. Sir, She looked down at her dirty feet on his perfect floor. I'm getting everything dirty. I should take my shoes. You're not wearing shoes. Heat flooded her cheeks. He noticed. Of course he noticed. It's fine, he said, but his voice sounded far away, like he was talking to someone else, someone who wasn't there. He walked deeper into the mansion. Zariyah's grip tightened on her orange bag. Every instinct screamed at her to run. This was wrong. This was too much. People like her didn't belong in places like this. But then the man stopped, right in front of a wall covered in photographs, and Zariyah's entire world tilted sideways, because there, in a golden frame under soft, glowing light, was her mother's face. Zariyah couldn't move. Her eyes locked on the photograph. Her mother's face. Younger, healthier, smiling in a way Zariyah hadn't seen in years. But before she could speak, before she could ask the question burning in her throat, heavy footsteps echoed behind her. The guard. Sir, I really must insist. His voice was sharp now, annoyed. This child shouldn't be in here. We don't know where she's from or what she wants. Zariyah spun around. The guard stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes cold. I'm not stealing anything, she said quickly. I just wanted to sell. I don't care what you wanted. This is Mr. Alaric's private residence, not a marketplace. Her face burned. Shame crawled up her neck. I'm sorry. I'll go. I didn't mean to. Wait. The billionaire's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Dominic Alaric turned slowly. His eyes moved from Zariyah to the guard. Something dangerous flickered in his gaze. Marcus, he said quietly, too quietly. Did I ask for your opinion? The guard, Marcus, stiffened. No, sir, but protocol requires... Protocol? Dominic took a step forward. This child rang the bell. I let her in. That is the only protocol that matters here. Marcus's jaw clenched. Sir, with all due respect, we've had issues before with what? Children? Little girls trying to survive? The air turned ice cold. Zariyah wanted to disappear, wanted the marble floor to swallow her whole. She didn't want to be the reason these two men were fighting. I should go, she whispered. I don't want any trouble. You're not trouble, Dominic said without looking at her. His eyes stayed fixed on Marcus. Tell me, Marcus, when you see a child at the gate, barefoot, selling oranges in the burning sun, what exactly do you see? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. I see someone who doesn't belong here. Exactly. Dominic's voice dropped even lower. You see someone who doesn't belong. I see someone who's fighting to survive. We are not the same. Silence swallowed the room. Zariyah's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd never heard anyone speak like this, never seen someone with power use it to defend her. Marcus straightened his uniform. Understood, sir. My apologies. But his eyes told a different story. When he glanced at Zariyah, she saw something that made her stomach twist. resentment. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the hall until they disappeared completely. Dominic exhaled slowly. The tension in his shoulders didn't ease. "I'm sorry," Zariyah said softly. "I didn't mean to cause problems." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "You didn't cause anything," he said. "Now, about that photograph." He turned back to the wall, back to her mother's face. "You asked me a question, didn't you?" Zariyah nodded, her voice barely escaping. Why do you have my mom's picture?" Dominic stood silent for a long moment. Then he spoke 4 words that changed everything. "Because she saved me." "Saved you?" The words felt foreign in Zariyah's mouth, like they belonged to a different story, a different life. Dominic didn't answer immediately. He stared at the photograph like it held secrets he'd buried for years. His hands were in his pockets, his shoulders tight. "Sit," he finally said, gesturing to a leather couch that probably cost more than Zariyah's entire apartment building. She didn't move. "I don't understand. How did my mama save you? She's just a what?" His eyes snapped to hers, sharp, intense. "Just a nurse? Just a woman from Lumina Heights? Just someone not worth remembering?" Zariyah flinched. "I didn't mean—" "I know what you meant." His voice softened, barely. "Sit, please." This time she obeyed. The leather felt cold against her legs, too smooth, too expensive. Everything here reminded her she didn't belong. Dominic moved to the window. Sunlight cut across his face, highlighting the gray in his hair, the exhaustion in his eyes. "7 years ago," he began, "there was a fire." Zariyah's breath caught. "Not here. Another property I owned downtown. An old building I was renovating. I went to check on the progress one night." He paused, his jaw clenched. "Electrical failure. The place went up in minutes." She could see it in his eyes, the flames, the smoke, the fear. "I was trapped on the 3rd floor, smoke everywhere. Couldn't see, couldn't breathe. The stairs had collapsed. Everyone else got out, but I—" His voice cracked, just slightly. "I accepted it. Accepted I was going to die." Zariyah's hands gripped the edge of the couch. Then she appeared. He turned from the window, looked directly at Zariyah. "Your mother, Amira. She was working at the hospital across the street. Saw the smoke, saw the flames. Everyone said it was too dangerous. Firefighters were still minutes away." Tears burned behind Zariyah's eyes. She went in anyway. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. She found me, unconscious, pulled me down 2 flights of stairs through smoke so thick she couldn't see her own hands, burned her arms, scarred her shoulder, nearly died herself. Zariyah thought of her mother's shoulder, the mark she'd always wondered about, the scar Mama never explained. When I woke up in the hospital, she was gone, refused recognition, refused money, just disappeared back into her life like she hadn't just saved mine. "But you found her," Zariyah whispered. "Eventually. Took me months. When I did, she had a baby. You." His eyes softened. "She asked me to leave her alone. Said she didn't save me for reward. Said she had everything she needed." "So why do you have her picture?" Dominic walked closer, knelt down until he was eye level with Zariyah. "Because some debts can never be repaid. Because every morning I wake up alive is because of her courage. Because—" He stopped. His eyes searched her face like he was looking for something. "Because what?" Zariyah's voice trembled. Dominic reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out an envelope, old, worn, like he'd carried it every day for years. He handed it to her. "Open it." Zariyah's hands shook as she tore the seal. Inside was another photograph, her mother, younger, holding a newborn baby. Her, but written on the back in handwriting she didn't recognize, were words that stopped her heart. Dominic, she has your eyes. I'm sorry. A. The photograph slipped from Zariyah's fingers. It fluttered to the marble floor, landing face up. Her mother's smile stared back at her, the baby in her arms. Those words on the back. She has your eyes. No. The word came out broken, small. Dominic didn't move, didn't speak, just watched her with those eyes that suddenly looked too familiar. Zariyah couldn't finish, couldn't breathe. The room spun. The chandeliers above blurred into streams of light. The marble walls pressed closer. Everything beautiful suddenly felt like a trap. I didn't know, Dominic said quietly. Not until 2 years after the fire. Not until I found her again and saw you. Zariyah stood up too fast. Her legs wobbled. You're lying. I'm not. My father is dead. Mama said he died before I was born. She lied to protect you, to protect us both. No. Her voice echoed through the massive hall. Tears finally broke free, streaming down her cheeks. My father wouldn't let us starve, wouldn't let Mama get sick, wouldn't let me sell oranges in the street like. Her voice shattered completely. Dominic stood slowly, pain carved into every line of his face. I didn't know you were suffering. Your mother never told me. She cut all contact, changed addresses. I've been searching for 2 years, Zariyah. 2 years of private investigators, dead ends, false leads. Then how did you find us? I didn't. His voice dropped to a whisper. You found me. The words hit her like a punch. She stumbled backward. Her foot caught on the edge of a rug. She would have fallen, but Dominic moved fast, faster than she expected, and caught her arm. Don't touch me. He released her immediately, stepped back, hands raised like she was something fragile he'd already broken. I understand you're angry, he said. Angry? Zariyah laughed, but it came out sharp and cruel. I'm not angry. She didn't have a word for what she was. Confused, betrayed, terrified, hopeful, all of it at once, tearing her apart from the inside. Her eyes darted around the hall. Gold everywhere, wealth she couldn't comprehend, a life she'd never known existed. While she and Mama lived in a one-room apartment with walls so thin she could hear the neighbors fighting, while Mama coughed blood into rags because they couldn't afford a doctor. Why didn't you try harder? Her voice cracked. If you're so rich, why didn't you find us sooner? Dominic's face crumpled, just for a second. Then he rebuilt it, brick by brick, until the mask was back in place. But she'd seen it, the guilt. I tried everything, he said. Your mother didn't want to be found. She was dying, Zariyah screamed. She is dying, and you have all this. She gestured wildly at the mansion, the marble, the gold. All this, and we have nothing. Silence crashed down between them. Dominic's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Then let me help now. Why should I trust you? Because, he stopped, started again. Because you have my eyes and your mother's courage, and I've spent 7 years trying to earn a second chance I don't deserve. Zariyah's chest heaved. She looked at the photograph on the floor, at her mother's face, at the truth she'd never asked for. Zariyah bent down slowly. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the photograph. The edges were worn smooth, like someone had held it 1,000 times. Traced the faces with desperate fingers. She stared at the baby in her mother's arms, at herself. I don't remember this, she whispered. You were 3 days old. Zariyah's throat tightened. Where was it taken? The hospital, same one where your mother saved me. Dominic's voice faltered. She let me hold you, once, for maybe 5 minutes. Then she told me to leave, said it was better this way. Better? Zariyah's head snapped up. How is any of this better? She thought I'd ruin your lives, thought my world was too dangerous, too complicated. He ran a hand through his hair. She was probably right. Zariyah looked back at the wall. at the larger photograph of her mother in the golden frame. Young, beautiful, strong, so different from the woman lying in bed right now, drowning in her own lungs. When was this taken? She pointed at the framed photo. The night of the fire, before she went in. Dominic moved closer to the wall. A news crew captured it. She was standing across the street, watching the building burn. I had it enhanced, enlarged. It's the only picture I have where she's not running away from me. Something in his voice broke Zariyah's anger. Just a little. You really loved her, she said quietly. I still do. The words hung in the air like smoke. Zariyah studied his face, the sadness carved so deep it looked permanent, the way he stared at her mother's photograph like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Did she love you? Dominic's jaw clenched. Once, maybe, before I destroyed it. How? By being exactly who I am. He turned away from the photograph. A billionaire, a man with enemies, a life where people use the ones you love as weapons against you. Zariyah thought of the guard, Marcus, the way he'd looked at her with cold eyes. Is that why she lied to me? Zariyah asked. Why she said you were dead? Probably. Safer for you to believe I didn't exist. But I do exist. Zariyah's voice rose. And so does she. And she's dying, and you could have helped, and I didn't know. Dominic's composure finally cracked. Do you think I'd let her suffer? Let you sell oranges in the street? If I'd known, but you didn't. No, I didn't. The truth sat between them like a wound. Zariyah looked at the photograph in her hands again. Her mother's smile. The baby's tiny fist wrapped around her finger. She has your eyes. She looked up at Dominic. Really looked. Brown eyes. Same shade as hers. Same shape. Her stomach twisted. Take me home, she said suddenly. What? Take me home. To Mama. Right now. Dominic straightened. Zariyah, maybe we should talk more. No. Her voice was steel. You want to help? You want a second chance? Then prove it. Take me home. Look her in the eye. Tell her you know. Tell her I know. Dominic's face went pale. She'll hate me for this, he said quietly. Maybe? Zariyah clutched the photograph to her chest, but she's dying, and she deserves the truth before it's too late. Dominic stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Get in the car. The car was nothing like Zariyah had ever seen. Black, sleek, leather seats that felt like clouds. The door closed with a sound so soft it was almost silent, like money had even bought the quiet. Dominic sat beside her in the back. A driver she hadn't seen before slid into the front seat without a word. Lumina Heights, Dominic said. Building 7, correct? Zariyah's head snapped toward him. How do you know where we live? His silence was the answer. You've been watching us. Her voice went cold. You said you couldn't find us, but you knew. You knew the whole time. No. Dominic's jaw tightened. I found you 3 weeks ago. I was working up the courage to approach when... He stopped. When what? When I saw you leave with the oranges. His voice dropped. When I realized how bad things had gotten. Zariyah wanted to scream, wanted to hit him, wanted to ask why he'd waited even one more day. But the car was already moving, through the wealthy district, past the golden gates and marble mansions, the world she'd glimpsed for just a moment. Then the neighborhoods changed. Buildings got shorter, paint peeled, trash gathered in corners. Her world came back into focus, the real one, where little girls sold fruit and mothers died slowly. She clutched the photograph tighter. The silence in the car was suffocating. Dominic stared out the window, his hands folded in his lap. But she could see the tension, the way his knuckles turned white, the vein pulsing in his temple. He was terrified. Good, she thought. He should be. What are you going to say to her? Zariyah asked. I don't know. You have to know. You can't just show up and what? He turned to her. and for the first time she saw real fear in his eyes. Tell her I found our daughter by accident, that she came to me, that I failed you both for 9 years? You could start with the truth. The truth destroyed us once already. The car hit a pothole. Zariyah's shoulder bumped against the door. In her world, potholes never got fixed. She might not even let you in, Zariyah said quietly. She might slam the door in your face. I know. She might hate you. I know. She might, Zariyah's voice cracked. She might send me away for bringing you. Dominic's head turned sharply. What? Tears burned in her eyes. She told me to never trust rich people, said they only take, never give. If she finds out I went to your house, if she thinks she won't send you away. Dominic's voice was firm, absolute. A mother doesn't stop loving her child because of one mistake. How do you know? Because she's Amira. He said her name like a prayer. Because she walked into fire for a stranger. Because she gave up everything to protect you. That kind of love doesn't break. Zariyah wanted to believe him, but belief was a luxury she'd learned not to afford. The car turned onto her street. Building 7 came into view, 4 stories of cracked concrete and broken dreams. Home. The car stopped. Neither of them moved. Last chance, Zariyah whispered. You can still leave. Dominic reached for the door handle. I've been running for 7 years, he said. I'm done. He stepped out. Zariyah watched him stand there, this billionaire in his expensive suit, looking up at the building like it was a mountain he had to climb. Then she grabbed her bag of oranges and followed. The stairwell smelled like piss and bleach. Dominic's face didn't change, but Zariyah saw him notice, saw the way his eyes took in the broken railing, the graffiti on the walls, the flickering light on the second floor that had been dying for months. This was her world, and he was seeing it for the first time. 3rd floor, she said quietly. They climbed in silence. Each step echoed. Somewhere above them, a baby cried. Below, a couple argued in Spanish. The sounds of poverty wrapped around them like a blanket that suffocated instead of warmed. Dominic's expensive shoes clicked against the concrete. Out of place, wrong. Everything about this was wrong. Zariyah stopped at apartment 3C. The door was scratched, dented. The number hung crooked, the C barely attached. She pulled out her key. Her hand shook. Zariyah. Dominic's voice was soft. Maybe I should wait out here. Let you talk to her first. No. She put the key in the lock. You came this far. You don't get to hide now. She pushed the door open. The apartment looked worse after seeing his mansion. One room that served as kitchen, bedroom, and living room all at once. A hot plate on a counter. A mattress in the corner with sheets that had been washed so many times they were gray. And, in the middle of it all, her mother. Amira lay on the couch, covered in a thin blanket. Her skin was pale, too pale. Dark circles under her eyes made her look like a ghost. But when she saw Zariyah, she smiled. Baby girl, you're back. Her voice was weak. Did you sell the oranges? Zariyah couldn't speak, because her mother hadn't seen him yet. Dominic stood in the doorway, frozen. His face had gone completely white. Amira's eyes shifted to the door, and everything stopped. The smile died on her lips. Color drained from her already pale face. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She tried to sit up, failed. Coughed so hard her whole body shook. Zariyah ran to her. Mama, please, don't. Get him out. Amira's voice was steel despite the coughing. Get him out right now. Amira. Dominic took a step inside. Don't. She held up a shaking hand. Don't you dare say my name. Don't you dare come into my home. Another coughing fit cut her off. This time blood spotted the blanket. Zariyah's heart shattered. Mama, you're bleeding. You need help. He can help. I don't want his help. Amira's eyes blazed with fury and fear. I told you to stay away from people like him. I told you. She looked at Zariyah with betrayal so deep it cut. What did you do? I just wanted to sell oranges. Zariyah's voice broke. I didn't know. I rang the bell and he was there and you brought him here. Tears streamed down Amira's face. You brought him to us. I know the truth, Zariyah said. The words tumbled out, desperate and raw. I know he's my father. I know about the fire. I know you lied to me my whole life. Amira's face crumpled. Dominic moved closer, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Amira, please, let me explain. Let me explain what? She laughed, bitter and broken. Explain how you've been watching us, stalking us, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy everything I built? I'm trying to save you. I don't need saving, not from you, not ever. You're dying, Dominic's voice cracked. Look at yourself. You're dying and you're too stubborn to. Then let me die. The words echoed in the tiny apartment. Amira's chest heaved, blood on her lips, but her eyes never left his. You don't mean that, Dominic whispered. Don't tell me what I mean. Amira's voice was venom. You don't get to walk back into my life after 7 years and decide what I need. Zariyah stood frozen between them, her mother's anger, her father's desperation, both tearing her in half. Mama, please, go to your corner, Zariyah. Amira didn't look at her, kept her eyes locked on Dominic like he was a snake that might strike. But now, Zariyah's feet moved on instinct. Years of obedience programmed into her bones. She backed into the small space near the window, where her blanket lay folded, her corner, her piece of this tiny world. But she didn't stop watching. Dominic took another step closer. I never stopped looking for you. You should have looked harder. Amira's laugh was bitter. Or better yet, not at all. I had a right to know about her. You had no rights. Amira tried to sit up again. This time she made it, though her whole body trembled. You lost your rights the moment you chose your empire over us. I never chose. Yes, you did. Tears streamed down her face now. When I told you I was pregnant, what did you say? Tell me, Dominic. What were your exact words? His jaw clenched, silent. Say it, Amira demanded. I said, his voice broke. I said it was complicated. Complicated. She repeated the word like poison. My baby wasn't complicated. She was real. She was coming, and you said it was complicated. Zariyah's hands pressed against the wall. She wanted to disappear, wanted to unhear every word. I was scared, Dominic said. I had enemies, people who would have used you both against me. I was trying to protect yourself, you mean? Amira wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. You were protecting your reputation, your business, your perfect billionaire life that couldn't afford a scandal. That's not fair. Fair? Amira laughed again, sharp and cruel. You want to talk about fair? I pulled you from a burning building, saved your life, and you repaid me by abandoning your own child. I didn't abandon her. You wouldn't let me near her. Because you made it clear what mattered more. Amira's voice rose to a shout, then immediately broke into coughing, violent, wet. Blood splattered onto her hand. Dominic moved fast, dropped to his knees beside the couch. Please, let me take you to a hospital. Let me. Touch me and I'll scream. Her voice was quieter now, deadly. I swear I'll scream until every neighbor in this building comes running. He froze, hands outstretched, but not touching. They stayed like that. Tableau of broken love. Zariyah couldn't breathe. Why didn't you tell me? Dominic's voice was barely audible. Why didn't you tell me it was this bad? Because I didn't need you then. I don't need you now. But she does. He looked at Zariyah. Look at her, Amira. Really look at her. Amira's eyes shifted to her daughter. Zariyah stood in her corner, thin, tired, holding a bag of oranges she'd failed to sell, wearing a dress 2 sizes too small with holes in the hem, looking exactly like what she was, a child losing her mother. Amira's face crumbled. "I'm doing my best," she whispered. "I know," Dominic said softly, "but your best is killing you, and when you're gone, what happens to her?" The question hung in the air, like an executioner's blade. Amira looked at Zariyah, really looked, and for the first time, Zariyah saw something new in her mother's eyes. Fear. Amira's hands trembled in her lap. Zariyah watched her mother's face cycle through emotions: anger, fear, love, desperation. Each one carved deeper lines into skin that had aged too fast. "When I'm gone," Amira's voice cracked. "When I'm gone, she has Mrs. Chen downstairs. She promised to—" "Mrs. Chen is 74 years old and can barely walk," Dominic said gently. "What happens when she can't care for Zariyah either? Then the state will—" "The state?" Dominic's composure finally shattered. "You'd rather trust strangers than me? You'd rather your daughter end up in the system than—" "Yes," Amira shouted, then dissolved into coughing. Blood sprayed onto the blanket, onto her hands, onto the cushions. Zariyah moved without thinking, grabbed the rag near the couch, pressed it to her mother's mouth. Amira's eyes met hers, and in that moment, Zariyah saw the truth her mother had been hiding. She was dying, soon, not months, maybe weeks, maybe days. "How long?" Zariyah whispered. Amira looked away. "How long, Mama? Baby, tell me." Amira's shoulders sagged. "The doctor said maybe a month, without treatment." The world tilted sideways. A month, 30 days. Zariyah's knees gave out. She collapsed onto the floor beside the couch, still clutching the bloody rag. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice was a child's, small, broken. "Because you're 9 years old." Amira stroked her daughter's hair with shaking fingers. "Because you shouldn't have to carry this. Because I wanted to protect you from—" "From what? From reality?" Zariyah looked up through tears. "I sell oranges in the street, Mama. I know we have nothing. I've always known." Dominic stood slowly. His hand went to his jacket pocket. Amira's eyes tracked the movement. "Don't. Amira, whatever you're about to offer, I don't want it. It's not an offer." He pulled out an envelope, different from the one before. Older, more worn. "It's something I should have given you 7 years ago." Amira stared at the envelope like it might explode. "What is that?" Zariyah asked. "You knew." Zariyah's voice didn't sound like hers. It sounded older, harder, like something inside her had just broken beyond repair. "Baby, I can explain. You knew I had money and you let us starve." Zariyah stood up. The paper crumpled in her fist. "You let me sell oranges in the street? You let yourself get this sick when we had $5 million? It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Zariyah's scream filled the tiny apartment. "It's exactly that simple. You were dying, and I was begging for coins, and we had millions." Amira reached for her daughter. Zariyah stepped back. The look on her mother's face nearly broke her, but the anger was stronger than the guilt. "You lied to me," Zariyah whispered, "about everything, about him being dead, about us being alone, about—" her voice cracked, "about how much you actually loved me. Don't you dare." Amira's eyes blazed through tears. "Don't you dare question my love for you." "Then why?" Zariyah held up the paper. "Why would you let us suffer when you could have stopped it?" "Because this money comes with chains," Amira pointed at Dominic. "Because accepting anything from him means accepting his world, his enemies, his dangers, everything I've spent 9 years protecting you from." "What dangers?" Zariyah turned to Dominic. "What is she talking about?" Dominic's jaw tightened. "I have business rivals, people who would use my family against me." "That's why you left us?" Zariyah asked. "Because you were scared?" "I wasn't scared for me. I was scared for you." "Liar." Amira tried to stand, failed, collapsed back onto the couch, coughing. "You were scared of what loving us would cost, scared of choosing us over your empire." "That's not true? Then prove it." Amira's eyes locked onto his. "Walk away right now. Leave the check. Leave us alone. Let Zariyah have the money without you in her life." The silence was deafening. Dominic stood frozen. Zariyah watched his face, watched the war happening behind his eyes. "That's what I thought," Amira said bitterly. "No." Dominic's voice was steel. "No, I won't walk away. Not this time." "Then you get nothing. I don't want the money," Zariyah shouted. Both adults stopped, looked at her. "I don't want $5 million or trust funds or any of it. Zariyah, I want you alive, Mama." Tears poured down her face. "I want you to stop coughing blood. I want you to get out of bed and make breakfast and tell me stories and be my mom." Her voice broke completely. "I don't care about money. I don't care about his world or his enemies or whatever you're so scared of. I care about you, and you're choosing pride over living. You're choosing to die instead of letting him help." Amira's face crumpled. "Baby, am I wrong?" Zariyah's voice was quiet now, deadly quiet. "Tell me I'm wrong, Mama. Tell me you're not choosing to leave me." Amira opened her mouth, closed it. Tears streamed silently down her face. She couldn't say it, because it was true. Dominic moved slowly, carefully. He knelt beside the couch again, but this time he spoke only to Zariyah. "Your mother saved my life once," he said softly. "Let me save hers. Please." Zariyah looked at the crumpled paper in her hand, at her mother's pale, dying face, at this stranger who might be her father. "What do I have to do?" she whispered. "Say yes," Dominic replied. "Just say yes." Zariyah turned to her mother. Amira stared back, tears falling, pride and fear warring in her eyes. "Mama," Zariyah said, "please." One word, carrying the weight of everything. Amira's shoulders shook. Then, so quietly it was almost nothing, she whispered, "Okay." Everything happened fast after that. Too fast. Dominic made a phone call. One call. That's all it took. Within 20 minutes, the tiny apartment filled with people. Paramedics with a stretcher, a private nurse with a medical bag, 2 men in suits Dominic called security, who stood by the door like statues. Zariyah pressed herself into her corner and watched her world transform. "Careful with her," Dominic directed as they lifted Amira onto the stretcher. His voice was calm, controlled, but his hands shook. Amira's eyes found Zariyah. "Baby, come here." Zariyah moved to her mother's side, their fingers intertwined. "I'm scared," Zariyah whispered. "Me too." Amira squeezed her hand. "But we're going to be okay. We have to be." "Ma'am, we need to move," one of the paramedics said gently. "The ambulance is waiting." "Not an ambulance," Dominic corrected. "Private transport to Mercy Grace Hospital. Dr. Rahman is expecting us." The paramedic's eyes widened. "Dr. Rahman? The Dr. Rahman?" "Yes." Everyone in the room shifted. Even Zariyah knew that name. Dr. Rahman was legendary, the best lung specialist in the country, maybe the world. People waited months for appointments, and Dominic had him waiting. This was what money did. It bent reality. "Zariyah," Dominic's voice pulled her back. "Ride with your mother. I'll follow in my car." She nodded, mute. They carried Amira down the stairs. Neighbors peeked through cracked doors. Mrs. Chen stood in her doorway, hands pressed to her mouth. "Is she?" "She's going to be okay," Zariyah said, though she didn't know if it was true. Mrs. Chen grabbed her hand as she passed, pressed something into her palm, a small jade pendant on a chain. "For protection," the old woman whispered. "Your mother saved my grandson once. This is all I have to give back." Zariyah's throat closed. She nodded and clutched the pendant tight. Outside, it wasn't an ambulance. It was a mobile medical unit, sleek, white, with equipment inside that looked like something from a spaceship. They loaded Amira carefully. Zariyah climbed in beside her. A young nurse with kind eyes sat across from them. "I'm Nina. I'll be monitoring your mother during transport. We're 15 minutes from the hospital." "Will she make it 15 minutes?" Zariyah's voice was small. Nina smiled softly. "She's stronger than she looks. I can see it." Amira squeezed Zariyah's hand again. The vehicle started moving. Through the window, Zariyah watched her building disappear, watched Lumina Heights fade into the distance. She thought about her corner, her blanket, her bag of oranges still sitting on the floor. That life felt like another person's memory now. "What happens after?" Zariyah asked. "After they fix you?" Amira's eyes glistened. "I don't know, baby. I don't know anything anymore." "Will we go back? To the apartment?" Amira looked out the window. "I don't think we can. Not after this." "Then where?" Amira didn't answer, because they both knew. Dominic's world had already swallowed them whole. The vehicle pulled up to Mercy Grace Hospital. Not the emergency entrance where regular people went. A private entrance. Hidden. Exclusive. Doors opened. A team of doctors and nurses rushed out. Dr. Rahman himself, silver-haired, commanding, took one look at Amira and started barking orders. "Acute pulmonary hemorrhage. Possible TB. Get her into ICU 3. Start oxygen immediately. I want full labs and imaging within the hour." They moved like a machine. Efficient. Practiced. Zariyah tried to follow, but a hand caught her shoulder. "Dominic, let them work," he said gently. "But they'll save her, I promise." Zariyah watched them wheel her mother through double doors, watched her disappear, and suddenly she was alone. With him, her father, a stranger, in a world she didn't understand. "What now?" she whispered. Dominic looked down at her, really looked at her. Then he did something unexpected. He knelt down, eye level, the way you talk to a child, not at one. "Now," he said softly, "we wait, and we hope, and if your mother survives," his voice caught, "when your mother survives, we figure out how to be a family." Zariyah stared at him. "I don't know how to do that," she admitted. "Neither do I." For the first time, they were honest with each other. The waiting room was too clean, everything white, everything perfect. Even the chairs were soft, nothing like the plastic ones in the free clinic where Zariyah used to take her mother. Dominic sat 3 seats away, close enough to help, far enough to give space. They'd been waiting 2 hours. Zariyah hadn't spoken, hadn't moved except to grip Mrs. Chen's jade pendant so tight it left marks on her palm. "Are you hungry?" Dominic asked for the 3rd time. She shook her head. "Thirsty?" Another shake. He stopped asking after that. A clock on the wall ticked. Each second felt like an hour. Zariyah's mind kept replaying everything. The photograph, the envelope, her mother's face when she finally said okay. That one word that changed everything. "Mr. Alaric?" They both jumped. Dr. Rahman stood in the doorway. His expression was unreadable. Dominic shot to his feet. "How is she?" Zariyah couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The doctor's face would tell her everything, and she wasn't ready. "Stable," Dr. Rahman said. The word hit like a wave. "She's stable," Dominic repeated. "For now. Advanced tuberculosis with severe complications. Her lungs are damaged but treatable. It'll be a long road, 6 months minimum of intensive treatment, but she'll survive." Zariyah's legs gave out. Dominic caught her before she hit the floor, held her up while she sobbed into his expensive suit. "She'll survive. She'll survive. She'll survive." The words repeated in her head like a prayer answered. "Can we see her?" Dominic asked, still holding Zariyah. "She's asking for her daughter." Dr. Rahman looked at Zariyah with gentle eyes. 5 minutes. She needs rest, but she won't sleep until she sees you. Zariyah pulled away from Dominic, wiped her face with her hands. "Can I go alone?" Dominic hesitated, then nodded. "Of course." Dr. Rahman led her through the double doors, down a hallway that smelled like antiseptic and hope, past rooms with expensive equipment and private nurses. They stopped at room 312. "5 minutes," Dr. Rahman reminded her. Then he opened the door. Amira lay in a bed that could have been from a luxury hotel. White sheets, monitors beeping softly, an oxygen tube under her nose, IV in her arm. But her eyes were open, and when she saw Zariyah, she smiled. "Baby." Zariyah ran, crashed into the side of the bed, grabbed her mother's hand and pressed it to her face. "You're okay. You're okay. I'm here." Amira's voice was weak but real, alive. "I'm still here." They cried together. Zariyah couldn't remember the last time they'd cried together. Usually she cried alone, late at night, when she thought her mother was sleeping. "I'm sorry," Amira whispered. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For lying. For being too proud. For almost—" her voice broke. "For almost leaving you." "Don't!" Zariyah squeezed her hand harder. "Don't say that. You're not leaving. Dr. Rahman said 6 months and you'll be better. 6 months is a long time. I don't care. 10 months, 10 years, whatever it takes." Amira stroked her daughter's hair, the gesture so familiar it hurt. "Where is he?" Amira asked quietly. "Waiting outside. Is he good to you?" Zariyah paused, thought about the question. "I don't know yet, but I think he's trying." Amira's eyes glistened. "That's more than I gave him credit for. Do you still love him?" The question came out before Zariyah could stop it. Amira looked at the ceiling. Tears rolled down her temples. "I never stopped," she whispered. "That's why I ran. Loving him felt like drowning, and I had to choose, him or you. I chose you. I'd choose you 1,000 times. What if you didn't have to choose anymore?" Amira looked at her daughter. "What do you mean? What if—" Zariyah's voice trembled. "What if we could have both? What if we could be a family?" "Baby, it's not that simple." "Why not?" Zariyah's voice rose. "Why does everything have to be complicated? You love him. He loves you. I'm his daughter. Why can't we just—" "Because love isn't always enough." The words hung heavy. "Then what is?" Zariyah asked. Amira didn't answer, because she didn't know. A soft knock on the door. Dominic stood there, uncertain, vulnerable in a way billionaires probably never were. "Can I—" He gestured to the room. Amira and Zariyah looked at each other. Then Amira nodded. Dominic stepped inside. And for the first time in 7 years, they were in the same room, not fighting, not running, just 3 broken people trying to figure out how to be whole. Dominic closed the door softly behind him. The room felt smaller with all 3 of them inside, the air thicker. He stood at the foot of the bed, hands in his pockets, like he didn't know what to do with them. "Thank you," Amira said quietly. "For this, for her, for—" "Don't." His voice was rough. "Don't thank me for doing what I should have done 7 years ago." Silence stretched between them. Zariyah watched them both, her mother in the bed, her father standing guard. 2 people who loved each other but didn't know how to exist in the same space. "The doctor says 6 months," Dominic continued. "You'll stay here, private room, best care available, whatever you need." "I can't afford this." "You're not paying." "Dominic, the trust fund." He looked at Zariyah. "It's hers, legally. She can use it however she wants, and she wants her mother alive." Amira's jaw clenched. "I won't be your charity case." "You're not charity. You're—" He stopped, started again. "You're the mother of my child. That makes you family, whether you like it or not." Something flickered across Amira's face, not quite acceptance, but not rejection either. Progress. Zariyah felt hope bloom in her chest for the first time. Then the door opened. No knock, no warning. A woman walked in, tall, elegant, wearing a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Zariyah's entire building. Her hair was pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her smile was all teeth and no warmth. "Dominic," she purred, "there you are. I've been looking everywhere." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Dominic's entire body went rigid. "Catherine, what are you doing here?" Catherine. The name hit Zariyah like a punch. She remembered it from the background story. The threat, the danger. "Is that any way to greet your business partner?" Catherine's eyes swept the room, landed on Amira, lingered. "Though I can see you've been occupied. Get out." Dominic's voice was ice. Now. Is that necessary?" Catherine's smile widened. She looked at Zariyah. "And this must be the little girl everyone's been whispering about. The secret daughter." Zariyah instinctively moved closer to her mother's bed. "I said get out." Dominic stepped between Catherine and the bed, blocked her view. "Relax, Dominic. I'm just here to meet your family." Catherine tilted her head. "You know how I feel about family. So important. So vulnerable." The last word slithered out like a snake. Amira tried to sit up. "Who is this woman?" "No one," Dominic said firmly. "She's leaving." "Oh, I don't think so." Catherine pulled out her phone, showed the screen to Dominic. "Not until we discuss these photos." Zariyah couldn't see what was on the screen, but she saw Dominic's face go white. "Where did you get those?" His voice was barely controlled rage. "Does it matter? What matters is what the press will do with them. Billionaire Dominic Alaric's secret child discovered in poverty. The headlines write themselves. You wouldn't dare." "Wouldn't I?" Catherine's smile was poison. "You've been hiding her for 9 years, letting her live in squalor while you built your empire. How do you think that looks?" "That's not what happened. The truth rarely matters, does it? Only the story." Catherine leaned closer. "And my story is very compelling." Zariyah's heart hammered. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she understood danger. "What do you want?" Dominic's voice was deadly quiet. "The Riverside Project. Sign it over to me. 51% controlling interest." "That project is worth 200 million, and your daughter's reputation is priceless." Catherine glanced at Zariyah. "Though I suppose we could ask her, 'Little girl, how would you like your face on every news channel? Your mother's story dissected by strangers? Your father painted as the villain who abandoned you?'" "Stop," Amira said. Her voice was weak but fierce. "Leave her out of this." "Oh, she's already in it, darling." The moment Dominic claimed her, she became a target. Catherine's eyes glittered. "That's what happens in our world. Children are leverage." Dominic's hands clenched into fists. Zariyah saw it then. The rage, the violence barely contained. "You have 24 hours, Catherine said, heading for the door. "Sign over the project, or I release everything. Your choice." She paused at the threshold, looked back. "Oh, and Dominic, next time you want to play family man, make sure there are no cameras watching. You'd be surprised how many people are interested in your private life." Then she was gone. The door clicked shut, and Zariyah finally understood what her mother had been afraid of all along. The silence after Catherine left was suffocating. Dominic stood frozen, fists still clenched, jaw locked so tight, Zariyah could see the muscle twitching. "This is why," Amira said quietly. "This is exactly why I ran. I can handle Catherine. Can you?" Amira's eyes blazed despite her weakness. "Because it looks like she's got you cornered, and now she's threatening our daughter. She won't touch Zariyah. I won't let her." "You can't stop her." Amira tried to sit up higher, winced. The monitors beeped faster. "You can't control everything, Dominic. That's what you never understood. Money doesn't make you invincible." "Mama, please calm down." Zariyah grabbed her mother's hand. "I won't calm down." Tears streamed down Amira's face. "I spent 9 years keeping you safe. hidden, anonymous, and in one day, you're already a target. Dominic moved closer to the bed. I will protect her, both of you, whatever it takes. Even if it costs you 200 million? He didn't hesitate. Yes. The word hung in the air. Amira stared at him, searching his face for the lie, for the catch. She didn't find one. You'd really give up that much? She whispered. It's just money. His voice softened. I've spent 7 years trying to earn enough to deserve you both, to prove I was worthy, but none of it matters if I can't keep you safe. Zariyah watched something shift in her mother's eyes. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. What's the Riverside project? Zariyah asked. Dominic sighed, ran a hand through his hair. A development deal, luxury condos, waterfront property. It'll be worth billions eventually. And Catherine wants it? Catherine wants everything I have. She's been circling for years, waiting for a weakness. His eyes met Zariyah's. Now she's found one. Me, Zariyah said quietly. No. Dominic knelt beside her. You're not a weakness. You're... His voice caught. You're everything. And I was a fool to not claim you from the start, to not shout it from every rooftop that you're mine. Zariyah's throat tightened. But I won't make that mistake again, he continued. Catherine thinks she can use you against me. She's wrong. I'll sign over the project, give her whatever she wants, and then I'll make sure she never comes near you again. How? Amira asked. People like Catherine don't just disappear. No, but they can be neutralized. Something dangerous flickered in Dominic's eyes. I've been playing nice for too long, trying to be legitimate, clean, but if she wants to threaten my family, don't. Amira's voice was sharp. Don't become something dark because of us. That's not who you are. You don't know who I am anymore. Yes, I do. Amira's hand reached for his, trembling, uncertain, but reaching. You're the man who walked into a burning building to save blueprints because 12 families depended on that project for jobs. You're the man who donated an entire wing to this hospital anonymously. Her voice broke. You're the man I fell in love with. Don't lose him because of her. Their fingers intertwined. Zariyah watched them, two people who'd been broken apart, trying to find their way back. A sharp knock shattered the moment. The door burst open. Not Catherine this time. Marcus, the guard from the mansion. His face was pale, panicked. Sir, we have a problem. Dominic stood immediately. What kind of problem? Catherine didn't leave the hospital. She's downstairs, in the lobby. Marcus's voice dropped. With reporters, at least 20 of them. Zariyah's blood ran cold. She called them already? Dominic's voice was lethal. Before the 24 hours? It's worse, sir. Marcus looked at Zariyah. She's not threatening to release the photos anymore. She already did, 10 minutes ago. They're everywhere. The room spun. What? Amira's voice was barely a whisper. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed them the screen. News articles, dozens of them, all uploaded within the last few minutes. Headlines screamed from every major outlet. Billionaire secret, Dominic Alaric's hidden daughter, found living in poverty. 9 years of lies, inside the scandal that could destroy Alaric Industries. Abandoned child, the girl the billionaire forgot, and photos, so many photos. Zariyah at the mansion gate, dirty, thin, desperate. Zariyah in her torn dress, their building, their apartment, everything exposed. They're calling for your head, sir, Marcus said quietly. The board is in emergency session. Stock is already dropping. And Catherine, he paused. Catherine is downstairs offering an exclusive interview about how she discovered the truth, how she's fighting to protect Zariyah from you. Dominic's face went blank, the mask of a man who just lost everything. Stay close to me, he said, looking at Zariyah. His voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm before hurricanes. Why? Zariyah whispered. Because Catherine just declared war. He moved toward the door. And I'm about to end it. The elevator ride down felt like descending into hell. Dominic stood perfectly still, arms at his sides, face carved from stone. Marcus positioned himself between Dominic and the doors, protective, alert. Zariyah pressed against the back wall, heart hammering so loud she was sure they could hear it. "Sir, perhaps you should let legal handle this," Marcus said quietly. "Going down there right now is exactly what I need to do. Catherine has the advantage. She controls the narrative." "Not anymore." The elevator dinged. Ground floor. The doors opened to chaos. Camera flashes exploded like lightning. Reporters shouted over each other. Microphones thrust forward like weapons. "Mr. Alaric, is it true you have a secret daughter? Did you abandon her intentionally? How do you respond to allegations of negligence? Is the mother filing for child support?" Dominic didn't flinch, didn't slow. He walked through them like Moses through water. They parted instinctively, cameras tracking his every move. Zariyah clutched the back of Marcus's jacket, using him as a shield. And there, at the center of the lobby, stood Catherine, perfectly positioned under the brightest lights. Her makeup flawless, her smile practiced. She was giving an interview to 3 reporters at once. "Truly heartbreaking," she was saying. "To think that a man of Dominic's wealth and influence could allow a child, his own flesh and blood, to suffer in such conditions. It speaks to a fundamental moral failing." "Catherine!" Dominic's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Every camera swiveled. Every reporter went silent. Catherine's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in her eyes. Fear. Good, Zariyah thought. Be afraid. "Dominic," Catherine's voice was honey, "I was just explaining to these kind people how concerned I am for your daughter's welfare. Were you concerned when you hacked my private files?" The lobby went dead silent. "I don't know what you're talking about. Or when you bribed my security team for information?" Dominic took a step closer. "Or when you hired photographers to stake out a hospital, to photograph a sick woman and a traumatized child?" Catherine's smile cracked, just slightly. "I did no such thing." "Marcus," Dominic didn't look away from Catherine. "Show them." Marcus pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen. Suddenly, the lobby's display monitors flickered to life. Security footage appeared. Catherine, in a parking garage, 3 days ago, handing an envelope to a man with a camera. Audio played, crystal clear. "I don't care how you get the photos. Just make sure she looks as pathetic as possible. I need public sympathy before I make my move." Catherine's voice, unmistakable. The reporters erupted. "Ms. Winters, did you orchestrate this entire story? Were the photos staged? Is this a corporate takeover attempt?" Catherine's face went pale, then red, then white again. "This is doctored footage, time-stamped and verified by 3 independent sources," Dominic continued, "along with bank records showing payments to 6 different media outlets for priority placement of your story." He moved closer, close enough that only Catherine could hear his next words, but the cameras caught his lips moving. Zariyah would find out later what he said. "Touch my family again, and I'll bury you so deep, hell itself won't find you." Catherine stumbled backward. The mask finally shattered. Underneath was something ugly, desperate, cornered. "You can't prove any of this holds up in court." "I don't need court." Dominic's smile was razor sharp. "I just need the truth. And now everyone has it." He turned to the reporters. Addressed them directly. "Catherine Winters has been attempting corporate espionage for 3 years. This fabricated scandal was her latest attempt to manipulate me into signing over assets. The photos are real. The poverty was real. My daughter's suffering was real." His voice cracked, just slightly. "And that's on me, not Catherine. Me. I failed to find them sooner, failed to protect them, failed to be the father my daughter deserved." He looked directly into the nearest camera. "But I'm here now, and anyone who tries to use my family as a weapon will learn exactly what I'm capable of." The threat hung in the air. Catherine backed toward the exit, her heels clicking frantically. "This isn't over, Dominic." "Yes," he said quietly, "it is." Security guards, not Marcus, but 6 others Zariyah hadn't seen, materialized around Catherine. "Ms. Winters, you're no longer welcome on this property," the lead guard said, "or any property owned by Alaric Industries. Violation will result in arrest for trespassing." Catherine's eyes blazed with hatred, but she was beaten. She knew it. Everyone knew it. She turned and walked out, head high, pretending she hadn't just lost everything. The reporters started shouting questions at Dominic again, but Marcus and the security team formed a wall. Dominic turned back to Zariyah, knelt down in the middle of the lobby, in front of everyone. "I'm sorry," he said, loud enough for the cameras to hear. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry you suffered. I'm sorry it took you walking through my gate for me to finally do what I should have done 9 years ago." Tears streamed down Zariyah's face. "But I'm here now," he continued, "and I'm not going anywhere, ever." He held out his hand. Zariyah looked at it, at this man who was her father, who just destroyed his enemy to protect her, who was promising forever in front of the entire world. She took his hand, and the cameras captured it all. 3 weeks later, Zariyah sat in her mother's hospital room, finishing her math homework. The room had become familiar. The beeping monitors, the smell of antiseptic, the way sunlight filtered through the blinds at exactly 3 p.m. Home. Not her real home, not yet, but closer than anything she'd known. "You're frowning." Amira's voice was stronger now, still weak, but stronger. "Is it the fractions again?" "I hate fractions," Zariyah muttered. "You hate anything that doesn't make sense immediately." Amira smiled. "You get that from me." "I thought I got everything from him." The words came out sharper than Zariyah intended. Amira set down the book she was reading. "Talk to me." Zariyah didn't look up from her homework. "There's nothing to talk about. You haven't called him dad once, not even father. It's always him or Dominic. So you're angry." "I'm not." Zariyah stopped, sighed. "I don't know what I am." Amira patted the bed. Zariyah abandoned her homework and climbed up, careful of the IV line. They sat together in silence for a moment. "He's trying," Amira said finally. "I know it doesn't fix the 9 years, but he's trying. He bought me 12 dresses last week. 12. I don't need 12 dresses. He doesn't know how to be a father yet, so he's doing what he knows, providing. I don't want things. I want..." Zariyah's voice cracked. "I want him to know my favorite color without asking. I want him to know I hate eggs. I want him to feel like my dad, not a stranger who writes checks." Amira pulled her closer. "Give him time." "How much time did you give him?" The question sat heavy between them. "Not enough," Amira admitted. "I was scared. I thought running was protecting you. Maybe I was just protecting myself." A soft knock interrupted them. Dominic stood in the doorway. He always knocked now, never just walked in. "Am I interrupting?" he asked. "No," Amira said. "Come in." He entered, carrying a bag. Not shopping bags this time. Something else. He looked uncertain, vulnerable. "I brought something. For Zariyah." Zariyah's guard went up immediately. "I don't need more clothes." "It's not clothes." He sat in the chair across from the bed, pulled something from the bag. A photo album. Old, worn. The cover faded. "What is that?" Zariyah asked. "My childhood." Dominic opened it carefully. I thought maybe if you knew where I came from, you'd understand why I am the way I am." He turned the album so they could see. The first photo was a small boy, maybe 6, standing in front of a tiny house with peeling paint. "That's you?" Zariyah leaned closer. That's me. Dominic's voice was soft. We lived in a neighborhood a lot like Lumina Heights. My father worked construction. My mother cleaned houses. Zariyah stared at the photo, at this little boy who became a billionaire. We were poor? She asked. Very. Some nights we didn't eat. Most nights, actually. He flipped to another page. My father died when I was 8. Heart attack on a job site. No insurance, no savings. What did you do? Survived. Like you. He looked at her. Really looked. My mother worked 3 jobs. I worked 2, sold newspapers, shined shoes, whatever I could. Zariyah's anger softened. Just a little. When I made my first million, Dominic continued, I swore I'd never be poor again, never be powerless again. I built an empire so big that nothing could threaten it. But you forgot what it felt like, Zariyah said quietly, to be the kid selling newspapers. Dominic's eyes glistened. Yes, I forgot, until you rang my doorbell with a bag of oranges, and I saw myself. He turned more pages. His mother, newspaper clippings of his first business, early photos of the mansion being built, then photos of Amira, young, smiling, in her nurse's uniform. I took these, Dominic said. Before the fire, we were happy. Amira reached for the album, touched the photo with shaking fingers. I forgot we were ever this happy, she whispered. I didn't. I've looked at these every day for 7 years. They sat in silence, all 3 of them, looking at ghosts of who they used to be. My favorite color is purple, Zariyah said suddenly. Dominic looked up. What? My favorite color? It's purple, and I hate eggs, and I like math except fractions, and Her voice wavered. I'm scared you'll leave again. Dominic set the album aside, moved to kneel beside the bed. I won't, he said firmly. I promise you, Zariyah, I won't. How do I know that? Because, he took a shaky breath, because losing you once almost killed me, and I just got you back. I'm not that stupid. Zariyah studied his face, searching for lies, found only truth. Okay, she whispered. Okay? I'll try to trust you, to let you be my dad. Dominic's face crumpled. Tears fell freely. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you. And for the first time, Zariyah reached for him, hugged him, and let herself believe in second chances. 2 months later, Zariyah stood in the doorway of her new bedroom. Her bedroom, not a corner, not a shared space, an entire room just for her. It was bigger than their old apartment. Purple walls, her favorite color, a bed so soft it felt like sleeping on clouds, a desk by the window, bookshelves waiting to be filled, and on the wall, in a simple silver frame, hung the photograph. Her mother, young, strong, smiling, the same one that had been in Dominic's mansion, the one that started everything. Zariyah walked over to it, traced her mother's face with one finger. I hung it there this morning. She turned. Dominic stood in the hallway, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. I hope that's okay, he continued. I thought you'd want her watching over you, even when she's not here. Amira was still in the hospital, getting stronger every day, but not strong enough to come home yet. It's perfect, Zariyah said quietly. Dominic handed her a mug, sat on the edge of her bed. Can I tell you something? Okay. The night of the fire, when your mother pulled me out, I was unconscious, but I woke up for just a few seconds, and I saw her face. He stared at his hot chocolate. She was crying, praying, begging me not to die. Zariyah sat beside him, listening. A stranger, Dominic continued. I was a complete stranger, and she was willing to die for me. That's when I knew. Knew what? That I'd spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that sacrifice. His voice cracked. I failed. For 7 years, I failed. But that photograph, he gestured to the wall. It reminds me why I can't fail again. Zariyah leaned her head against his shoulder, The gesture came naturally now, after 2 months of trying. "You're not failing," she said. "You made me hot chocolate. You remembered I hate marshmallows. That's progress." Dominic laughed, actually laughed. "The bar is pretty low. You set it there yourself." They sat in comfortable silence. Then Zariyah asked the question that had been haunting her for weeks. "Do you think she'll ever love you again?" Dominic's breath caught. "Your mother?" "Yeah." He took a long time to answer. "I don't know," he finally said. "I hope so. But even if she doesn't," he looked at Zariyah. "Having you is enough, more than enough." "Liar." "Excuse me? You're lying." Zariyah sat up, faced him. "You want her back. You've wanted her back for 7 years. Don't pretend you're okay with just me." Dominic's mask crumbled. "You're right," he whispered. "I'm not okay with it. I want—" His voice broke completely. "I want my family whole. I want her to look at me without pain in her eyes. I want to fall asleep next to her and wake up knowing she chose me. I want everything I threw away because I was too much of a coward to fight for it." Tears streamed down his face. Zariyah had never seen him cry like this, not even in the hospital. "Then tell her," Zariyah said. "I can't. She's been through too much. I can't put that pressure. She loves you too." Dominic froze. "What?" "Mama. She loves you too. She told me." Zariyah took his hand. 2 weeks ago. She said loving you was the easiest thing she ever did. Leaving you was the hardest. She said that. She also said she's terrified. Because what if you hurt her again? What if choosing you means choosing danger? What if I prove I've changed?" Dominic finished. "What if I show her that I'll choose her every single time, no matter what it costs?" "Exactly." They looked at each other. Father and daughter, conspirators now. "I need to do this right," Dominic said. "Not with money, not with grand gestures, something real." Zariyah thought for a moment, then smiled. "I have an idea." The next morning, Dominic arrived at the hospital early, but instead of going to Amira's room, he went to the cafeteria. For 2 hours, he learned to make pancakes, not buy them, make them, from scratch. The kitchen staff thought he was insane. A billionaire burning pancake batter over and over until he got it right. But he didn't stop until they were perfect. Then he brought them to Amira's room on a tray, with real maple syrup, and coffee made exactly how she liked it. She was awake, reading. She looked up when he entered. "What is this?" she asked. "Breakfast." He set the tray on her table. "I made it. Myself. No chefs, no staff. Just me and a lot of failed attempts." Amira stared at the pancakes, then at him. "Why?" "Because," Dominic knelt beside her bed, "because I want to be the man who makes you breakfast, not the man who pays someone else to do it. I want to be present, real, enough." Amira's eyes filled with tears. "Dominic, I love you," he said. Simple, direct. "I've loved you for 7 years. I'll love you for 700 more. And I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I failed you, failed Zariyah, failed everything that mattered." He took her hand. "But if you'll let me, I'll spend every single day proving I've changed. I'll choose you, every time, over empires, over money, over everything." Amira couldn't speak. She pulled him up and kissed him, finally. After 7 years, they kissed. And Zariyah, watching from the doorway with the biggest smile on her face, knew everything was going to be okay. 6 months after the photograph, Zariyah stood in front of her school, not the underfunded public school with broken windows and outdated textbooks, a real school, with a library, science labs, teachers who smiled. She wore a uniform now, clean, pressed, purple backpack over her shoulders, so different from the girl who sold oranges. Sometimes she forgot that girl ever existed. Other times, she was all Zariyah could think about. "Ready?" Dominic asked from the car. Zariyah nodded but didn't move. What's wrong? He turned off the engine, gave her his full attention. That was new too. His full attention. No phone calls during dinner, no emails during breakfast, just presence. I had a dream last night, Zariyah said quietly. About the oranges. I was back on the street, knocking on doors, and nobody would answer. I knocked and knocked until my knuckles bled, and then her voice wavered. I woke up and forgot where I was. Thought I was still in the apartment, on my blanket in the corner. Dominic's hand found hers. That must have been scary. It was, but also, she struggled for the words. Also, I missed it, just for a second. I missed the simplicity, when all I had to worry about was selling 4 oranges. And now? Now I worry about math tests. And if the other kids think I'm weird, because I don't know who Taylor Swift is, and if Mama's cough means the TB is coming back, and if you'll... She stopped. If I'll what? Zariyah looked at him. Really looked. If you'll get tired of trying, of being a dad, of us. Dominic unbuckled his seatbelt, turned to face her fully. Zariyah Elizabeth Alaric, he said, using her full name, the one that was finally, legally hers. I will never get tired of you. Never. Do you understand? You say that now. I'll say it every day for the rest of your life, if that's what it takes. His voice was fierce. You changed me. Walking through that gate changed everything. I was half alive before you, a ghost building monuments to nothing that mattered. Tears pricked her eyes. You gave me purpose, he continued. You and your mother. You're not a burden. You're the reason I breathe. Zariyah launched herself across the console, hugged him tight. I love you, Dad, she whispered. The word still felt new on her tongue, but more right every time she said it. I love you too, baby girl. His voice was thick with emotion. Now go learn things. Make friends. Be a kid. She pulled back, wiped her eyes. What if I don't fit in? Then you'll teach them how to fit in with you. He smiled. You're Amira's daughter. You walked into a billionaire's mansion and demanded he pay attention. These kids don't stand a chance. Zariyah laughed despite her nerves. She grabbed her backpack, opened the door, paused. Dad? Yeah? Thank you for the pancakes, for learning my favorite color, for... Her throat tightened. For not giving up on us. Never, he said. Not in this lifetime. She walked toward the school. Halfway up the steps, she turned back. He was still watching, still there, always there now. She waved. He waved back, and Zariyah walked into her new life. That evening, Zariyah sat at the dinner table. Not a hot plate balanced on a counter. A real table, in a real dining room. Amira sat across from her, home, finally home, released from the hospital 2 weeks ago, still fragile, still healing, but alive, so beautifully, impossibly alive. You're staring, Amira said, smiling. I'm memorizing, Zariyah corrected. Your face, without the oxygen tube, without the IV, just you. Amira's eyes glistened. How was school? Hard, good, scary, amazing. Zariyah grinned. I made a friend. Her name is Sophie. She shares her lunch. You have your own lunch. I know, but sharing feels nice. Dominic entered from the kitchen, carrying plates. He'd cooked dinner himself again, still learning, still trying. The chicken was a little dry. The vegetables slightly overcooked, perfect. They ate together, talked, laughed, like families do. After dinner, Zariyah pulled out her homework. Fractions again. Need help? Dominic asked. Always. He sat beside her, explained the problems in ways her teacher hadn't. Patient, kind. Amira watched them from the couch, a book forgotten in her lap. What? Dominic asked, noticing her stare. Nothing. She smiled. Everything. I'm just happy. Me too, Zariyah said. Me 3, Dominic added. They sat in comfortable silence. the kind that only comes when people have fought through hell to find each other. Later, when Zariyah was supposed to be asleep, she crept to her doorway. Down the hall she could hear her parents talking. Soft voices, gentle laughter, planning the wedding. Small, private. Just the three of them and a handful of people who mattered. Zariyah smiled, returned to her room, looked at the photograph on the wall. Her mother, frozen in time, strong, brave, saving a stranger. "Thank you," Zariyah whispered to the image, "for being brave enough for both of us." She climbed into bed, pulled the covers up, and for the first time in her entire life, fell asleep without fear. Because she knew when she woke up, they'd still be there. Her family, whole, finally, impossibly whole. 1 year later. Zariyah stood at the top of the mansion stairs, holding a small velvet box. Inside was the jade pendant, the one Mrs. Chen had given her in the hallway, the day everything changed. She'd kept it, close for 12 months, a reminder of where she came from. Today, she was giving it back. Downstairs, the house buzzed with quiet activity. Not servants, friends. Mrs. Chen sat in the living room, sipping tea with Amira. The old woman's grandson, the one Amira had saved years ago, was here too. Healthy, thriving. Sophie from school was in the kitchen with her parents, helping Dominic attempt to bake a cake. Small, intimate, real. This was what family looked like now. Zariyah descended the stairs slowly, each step a memory. The first time she climbed them, terrified and desperate. The day Dominic carried her mother through the door. The morning Amira came home from the hospital. Every moment that built this new life, step by step. "There she is," Dominic said as she entered the kitchen. Flour on his face, frosting in his hair. The guest of honor. Today was Zariyah's 10th birthday, not celebrated in a corner of a one-room apartment. Here, home, surrounded by people who loved her. "You're making a mess," Zariyah observed. "He's making a memory," Amira corrected, entering the kitchen. She walked easier now, breathed easier. The scar on her shoulder, the one from the fire, visible in her sleeveless dress. She didn't hide it anymore. Dominic wrapped his arms around Amira from behind, kissed her temple. They did that constantly now, small touches, gentle kisses, making up for 7 years of distance. "Mrs. Chen wants to see you," Amira said to Zariyah. "She has something for you." Zariyah found the old woman in the living room, staring at the photograph on the wall, the one that started everything. "That picture saved my grandson's life too, you know," Mrs. Chen said softly. "Your mother, she's in there because she rushed him to the hospital when he stopped breathing, refused to leave until the doctors stabilized him." Zariyah hadn't known that. "She saves people," Mrs. Chen continued. "It's just who she is. And now," the old woman smiled, "someone finally saved her back." Zariyah held out the jade pendant. "I want you to have this. You gave it to me when I needed protection. But I'm safe now. Someone else might need it more." Mrs. Chen's eyes filled with tears. "You keep it, child. Pass it on when you save someone who needs saving. That's how these things work." Zariyah closed her fingers around the pendant, nodded. "Cake time!" Sophie shouted from the kitchen. They gathered around the table, 10 candles flickering on a lopsided cake that Dominic had definitely made himself. "Make a wish," Amira said. Zariyah closed her eyes. A year ago, she would have wished for food, medicine, survival. Now, she had everything, but she wished anyway. "Let this last. Let us stay whole. Let me never forget the girl who sold oranges, so I remember to help the next one." She blew out the candles. Everyone cheered. Later, after cake and presents and laughter, Zariyah found herself alone in the library, a room full of books she was slowly reading through, a lifetime of stories waiting. Dominic found her there. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah." She smiled. "Just thinking." "About?" About how a year ago I rang your doorbell to sell oranges, and you bought my whole bag even though you didn't need them. Best purchase I ever made. You never told me what you did with them. Dominic sat beside her. I have a confession. What? I can't stand oranges. I'm allergic. Zariyah's eyes went wide. What? Hives, swelling, the whole thing. He grinned. But I wasn't about to tell you that and watch you walk away. So I bought them, gave them to Marcus. He made juice for the staff. Zariyah started laughing, couldn't stop. You're ridiculous, she gasped between giggles. I'm your dad. It's my job. The laughter faded into comfortable silence. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I'd gone to a different gate? Zariyah asked quietly. Every day. Dominic's voice was serious now. Every single day I thank whatever force in the universe brought you to mine. Mama says it was fate. Your mother's probably right. He pulled Zariyah close. You know what the crazy part is? What? I spent 7 years searching for you. Hired investigators. Checked every lead. And in the end, you found me. You walked right up and asked the one question I couldn't ignore. Why do you have my mom's picture? Why do you have my mom's picture? He repeated. 5 words that changed 3 lives. Amira appeared in the doorway. There you are. I thought you'd snuck off to avoid cleanup. Never, Dominic said, standing. Come on, Zariyah. Let's show your mother we can wash dishes without breaking anything. Low bar, Zariyah teased. They walked together toward the kitchen. Zariyah paused at the photograph. Her mother's face, forever young, forever brave. Thank you, she whispered, for the courage, for the sacrifice, for walking into fire, for saving them all. Amira took her hand, Dominic took the other, and together they walked into their future, not perfect, not without scars, but whole, finally, beautifully, impossibly whole.